Jay Shear.
Jay Shear.
Jay Shear.
Jay Shear,
business consultant.
Jay Shear.
Jay Shear Business Consulting.
Welcome. I'm Jay Shear with Jay Shear Business Consulting. We build solid foundations for service-based businesses to grow and scale and achieve the results and success they deserve. And you've joined Business Minds Coffee Chat. Life is made of moments, and one moment can change your life. On this episode, we explore what it takes to rise above adversity and live an extraordinary life with purpose and passion. Our guest is a husband and father, one of the world's leading lifestyle entrepreneurs, a business coach, author, podcast host, content creator, investor, and a highly sought after speaker who has spoken in front of thousands at events in over 40 countries. Please welcome the founder of the One Shot Movement and the man who is on a mission to inspire and educate people to live life with passion and purpose, Craig Schulze. Craig, it's great to see you. Thank you so much for being here today.
No, really looking forward to spending the next 50, 60 minutes with you. So I'm excited about the show.
You and me as well. So we had an opportunity to have a conversation back in January, and it left an indelible mark on me. And your story is so rich, so full of different experiences, and it's a remarkable one. And I would love, as a starting point, to give some context around who you are and what you're doing today. Could you share a bit of a thumbnail sketch of your professional career and take us back a bit and maybe share some of the lessons that were learned early on that have allowed you to become the person that you are today?
Yeah, I'd absolutely love to. And I guess my background, I grew up in a very loving family, but I grew up in a small town in Australia, which is 1,000 people, and the nearest city was about 3.5 hours away. And my school only went to year 10. So at age 15, I left home. And that was like I guess thinking of that at the time, you don't know a lot at age 15. And I went through year 11 and 12 living in a hostel. And then my next big challenge, I guess, in life was I got my first job and was self-funded at 17. And I actually accepted a job, but I didn't have anywhere to live. So I was basically on the verge of homelessness at 17. But I managed to win 1 of 5 scholarships, put myself through university, become an engineer. Age 21, I fired my boss. Believe it or not, I put myself through university, then fired my boss to follow my dreams and passion. That was in the fitness industry. I bought my first business age 21, which was a fitness club. And I always say to people, at age 21, I had 0 business skills, literally not too many life skills, but what I lacked in business and life skills, I made up for my dreams, my desires, and the will to do whatever it takes to have success. Over the next 3 years, I become the #1 trainer in South Australia, so one of the states of Australia, and finalist for Fitness Professional of the Year in all of Australia. And then I set up 22 franchises, owned 5 fitness clubs. Business was great. I was investing in real estate at the time. I'm in my mid-20s, and my first big major shake-up financially for me was the global financial crisis. That in the space of probably 6 months, I had banks stop lending money, so I couldn't sell franchises. Banks stopped lending money, so I couldn't pay for renovations and fit outs to the gym, so I had to self-fund a couple of projects. My equipment was coming from America, and the US exchange rate meant my equipment costs went up $100,000 overnight. And, all of these things, and my clients are leaving me because they're worried about their finance. And that was a big wake-up call for me about managing risk and downside, a big lesson learned. But at the same time, business trends were changing. Social media, smartphone technology, Wi-Fi, all of these technologies were coming in. So I started building business online. I then built a 7-figure business online that spanned into 100 countries. And I traveled all around the world. I went to 120 different cities over the next 10 years and become financially free by the age of 40. And back in 2014, so it was sort of, I've fast forwarded, but I want to come back to a really important moment. And that's what one moment can change your life. So life was going really good. Finance was good. Business was good. Everything was good. My relationship was good, and about to be a first time parent. And my wife and I went into for a routine checkup a few weeks out before our first child was born, and our bags were packed to go on a holiday. So we were like going from the hospital onto a holiday just to relax for a few days. And sitting there at the obstetricians, just normal thing, normal process. And they said, "Oh, there's no heartbeat here." And that there just, I just froze at the time. And he said, I'll just bring someone else in. It might be nothing to worry about, and confirmed there was no heartbeat. And I sort of was in shock. And I said, "What happens now? Your wife's going to go not on a holiday. She's going to a birthing suite to deliver your baby." And that there was just a harrowing experience. And we can talk about that a little bit further on, but we'll snapshot here. That changed my life. So back in 2018, people were saying, "Craig, you've done a lot in business. You're highly successful. We want you to write a book for your brand." And I said, if I'm going to do that, I want to do something meaningful. And I wrote a book about that story and emphasizing on, you've got one shot at life. Go out there and give it your best shot. I said in the funeral that my son didn't even get one breath on this planet. You're all in the game. What have you got to worry about? Go out there and give it your best shot. And I said to my son in the birthing suite, after he was delivered, I had a really powerful moment with him. We had 2 days to spend with him, and I said to him that he will leave his legacy on this planet, but it'll be through me. And over the last couple of years, I've been building out the One Shot movement, which is inspiration and education to help people live their life with passion and purpose, whatever that is for them, and help them elevate into the top 1%. Because if I look at my journey, everything that I've ever done, I've always tried to push myself up into the top 1% or whatever it is. And that's brought on opportunities. So that's sort of where we are today, 2021.
Well, what an amazing story. And we're going to go into some more depth about your book. And I will share this before we dig into the book, which I've read it, and we're going to link to this because it's an important story, but my gosh, it really amplifies the importance of perspective. And as I was reading the book and really feeling your words and feeling your emotion as best as you were able to capture it, which, by the way, you did an amazing job on that, it really helped me look at my own life and look at my own journey up to this point and pull that lens back a bit and realize that no matter what challenges we face, and your challenges were unbelievable and different from challenges that I face, but nonetheless, that no matter what those challenges are, we can overcome them. We can use those as a catalyst to be able to push ourselves further ahead, use that as fuel and inspiration to really make transformative change. So I just wanted to share that before we dig further into it. But I do want to go back for a moment because I'm curious to see a certain level of success at a fairly young age. You're 21, 22 years old. You're in the fitness industry, opening up gyms. And what did you absolutely love about business at that point in your life? And on the flip side of that coin, what were the parts of doing business that you just weren't a fan of?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a creator. And for me, trading time for money didn't really align that well for me. So turning up to do something day after day after day and know whatever I do, whether I perform good or bad, I'm going to get the same, result at the end of my salary. So, and that's sort of, even if I look back a little bit further, when I was age 12, my next door neighbor set me a task for a project. He thought that he was going to give me a $12 an hour job, but I managed to work out a way to do it and get $24 an hour for it. And this is back in the 1992 when working at a supermarket, you're probably getting $4 an hour then. So for me, I was always thinking, how can I do things better? So going into business for me, it was like a game in a way of I've just done this task here and it's produced this result, that big win, go and keep pushing down that pathway. And I feel for me, business at a young age was, seeing the fruits of your labor was really, really rewarding. And I'm like that today, whether I'm doing my podcast or writing a book. And, I love being creative. On the flip side, I am a very good visionary entrepreneur, and I'm not a great integrator. So I'm not a task sort of sit operationally behind. And ironically, I was an engineer, and that's probably why I only spent a year and a half in that industry, because sitting behind a computer all day, crunching numbers and doing that type of stuff. So behind the scenes in a business, I'm not a big fan of operations and all of the administration type of tasks. I'd rather go out in sales, marketing, grow, speak, create, and do all of that sort of stuff. So that's the sort of where I've had success in business, is understanding that that's super important. And I've been able to build people around me to provide the back end to my front end in terms of the sales and marketing engine.
Yeah, such an important lesson learned, and to be self-aware enough of the areas that you find fulfillment and where you're empowered to bring your strengths to the table. I think that's remarkable, to be able to acknowledge that at an early age, which clearly has served you well. And it's ironic. My ex-brother-in-law is an engineer and became an entrepreneur, started his own business. And I'm surrounded by a number of other engineers who have, we have a perception in our mind of what an engineer is and where they would spend their time. But I've seen several of them that have just gone off and done amazing things outside of the engineering world, more on the entrepreneurial side. So it is quite interesting. You mentioned that you had also built a highly successful online business. What category was that business in, or was it in multiple types of businesses?
Yes. So that came about really, I started selling wellness products in my gym. So one of my principles in business was have one client and sell as many things to that client as it can, because they're coming to you because they trust you. So I would be selling them merchandise, programs like boot camps, one-on-one, gym membership, so on. So I started selling wellness and nutrition products to my clients. And after 3 years doing that, it was a nice revenue stream. It was an extra $100,000 a year income. Mm-hmm. And there's a US company from Orlando called Genes Global, and they're a direct selling company. And they were looking to launch their product line internationally. And they heard of me and they reached out and said, Craig, would like you to come and have a look at our product line. And I flew out to America. I checked it out. They were in my area of wellness, but they had sort of a youth enhancement line as well. So products for skin and hair and etc. And they were really fascinating. It was intriguing product line, innovation, world first type of technology. So I went back to Australia and changed my product line, started selling it to my clients. And then just one thing led to another. I ended up having business in 100 countries. My third year, I made $1 million that year profit. And yeah, I still promote the products to today. It's been a life-changing business decision for me.
So what was it about that business that you latched onto or that enabled you to be able to grow revenues the way that you were able to?
Yeah, I think for me, like I mentioned right when I saw the trend of technology changing. So moving from a phone you can call and text into a smartphone, looking at, you know, what's this YouTube all about? What's this Facebook all about? I could see that type of thing changing the way we did business. So I've always been someone that's always looked at what's happening right now that is, going to change an industry. I read a book by Professor Paul Zane Pilzer on, it's called The Next Millionaires Are Going to Be Created in 5 key areas. There'll be wellness, there'll be information businesses, there'll be distribution businesses, there'll be e-commerce businesses, and the 5th one, direct home-based business opportunities. And I said, well, okay, this is back in 2006. And he said, in the next 10 years, there'll be, that's where the next millionaires are going to be created. That was the title of his book. He said the money will move from big corporate into these type of industries, home businesses. And I read that book and I literally said, okay, I'm in the wellness industry. I'm promoting wellness products. I'm an educator, so there's information. I'm in distribution, so I can sell products all around the world. And that I was leveraging somebody else's platform. So I'm like going, I can be one of the next millionaires. So it's all around identifying trends, but the intriguing part of that, out of the 10,000 other opportunities, they were pioneering world first stem cell technology in their product line. So it was innovation in a product line. So again, it was like a needle in the haystack. And at that time, stem cell technology was moving from not controversial, but very unknown into the future of health, beauty, and medicine. And as we see now, stem cell technology is in university education. It's used in hospital treatments. They're rebuilding organs. Everything's happening because we are built from stem cells. So I said, stem cell technology, online businesses, with what I know, I can go hard down this laneway and feel that I can do well. And that's what happened.
Outstanding. It's amazing how sometimes the right pieces of information or the right people enter our lives at the right time, right? So that book is an example that outlined for you those key areas that we're going to change the industry and make millionaires out of the right folks who are going down those lanes. And for that book to enter your life at the right time, for you to be in a position to capitalize on that. And you mentioned the word leverage, which we're going to be talking more about here shortly, because I think that's an incredibly powerful word, and one that has certainly made a shift in your life. So I appreciate you sharing your backstory. I think that truly helps us to better understand a bit about your mindset and how you show up every day. So it's a great story. So let's go ahead and fast forward then to the time you're in the hospital and you receive the news about your son. So walk us through as best as you can that experience. And what I'd really love to focus on is how you were able to take that situation in life and use that as fuel to create transformation and want to be able to create an impact in the world. And you've done it in a beautiful way through this book and through the work that you're doing.
Yeah, look, I mean, just to rewind to that situation to know a little bit more about me, because it will open up your eyes to what's happened there from transformation. I was what you would classify as a typical stoic, hardcore male, emotionless. Like I'd never cried in front of my wife in my life. If I went through my global financial crisis challenges, she knew I protected her from the financial trouble. Like I would deal with any adversity and challenge and, toughen up. it was to a point where in our wedding, in my father-in-law's wedding speech, in my best man's wedding, it was about, Craig's, he's like the Tin Man. He doesn't have a heart. He's, he just keeps on plowing through tractors, like a tractor through a paddock, just unbreakable. And I got to that experience. I was in total shock at the time. Like, I felt like my world had just flashed in front of my eyes. And my wife goes into the birthing suite, and she's going through labor, and I, just the emotion caught up with me to a point. I cried for the first time in front of my wife. She was going through labor. I'm trying to support her with massage, and because she's going through the pain of labor, knowing that the outcome was going to be, not what everyone always says. Oh, that's going to be the best day of your life. Well, watching my wife go through that labor certainly wasn't the best day of my life, and I cried for hours and hours and hours. It's like, years of emotion, 35 years of emotion coming out in like hours on a pillow. And when Ethan was born, I was very unsure whether I was able to confront seeing my child that's not going to live, and he's not coming home with us. My wife goes through the skin on skin sort of mother child process that you do when you first deliver. And I'm just sitting exhausted in a chair, and the doctor says, "Do you want to hold your son?" And I did at that time, and I was just looking down at his face like that, and there's just a little tear coming out of his eye. And it was what I would describe as out of body experience. And I sort of spent 10 minutes just looking to him, just promising him, like pledging that this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to make you proud. You'll be proud of your dad, and you'll make an impact on the planet. So over the next 48 hours, we spent with him, and until he decomposed too much to the hospital don't want you to see him anymore. And the next phase, you're signing birth certificates, death certificates. You've got a funeral director in your room going, this is the next week of your life. And it was just like everything coming from everywhere. And you're leaving the hospital, bags packed but with no child. You're turning up to your own home empty. People didn't really know at the time what was going on around, because we were packed to go on a holiday. So when you're coming home and you're just broken. So in that next week, lots of things went through my head over the next week, and that was, how am I going to impact the world? And in the funerals speech, carrying him in a coffin, walking through there, I made a pretty powerful speech. It's up on YouTube even, because I put that into a presentation I did 8 weeks after he was born. And I just said that my son, he didn't even get one breath on this planet. You're in the game. What are you worried about? Like, go out there and just chase your dreams, fight for your one shot at life. And from that point on, I just become a different person. Like I 100% know, because the way I was going was this, tractor moving forward. I would have gone to the next stage. Now we're married. Now we bought a house. Now we've got kids. Now we've got, like just these stages and ticking them off. Whereas now I'm like going, hang on, here's my child. He wants my attention, give him love, and, be more empathetic towards people. And you talked about perspective, like, hey, when I have a bad day, I always say I've got still Ethan's feet on which is on the front of the book, and I always just give myself a reminder, that's not a bad day. A bad day is watching your son be born, and so little things that would annoy you are just sort of like put into perspective. And over the last 6 years, I've moved from financial goals to more like contribution goals, and like having purpose on the planet is a little bit more important to me. So I have got actively involved in more helping children charities out in things. Like last week I did a talk somewhere, and we were donating money to raise money for children displaced from their parents through domestic violence. So I just donated all the book sale proceeds from there to go to that charity, and just things like
Beautiful.
that. Last year I was supposed to travel to Kenya to help out with a Jeunesse Kids project, and you go into a village and help build a village. So you sort of, I wasn't thinking like that until that situation happened. Everything changed, and changed for the better.
It truly is remarkable, as I listen to you share that story, which I know you've shared a number of times, and you were able to share it so well with the right amount of emotion, and the way you were able to articulate it in your book as well. It's amazing to me what happens with the human spirit when we're confronted with tragedy, when we're confronted with very, very difficult times, and how we're able to move past that. How some people like you were able to take that situation and really use it as a catalyst to not only define, but really hone in on your purpose, and then start to take the appropriate actions to start making the kind of impact that you needed to make on this world. And other people who might have gone through a similar situation, it just destroys them. And you look at well, what is the difference, right? What is the difference between the person who is just absolutely crippled by a situation like that, and then someone else who is able to use it and actually move their life forward? If you were able to put words to what that is, what came to you, could you? Can you put words around that?
Yeah. Without offending anyone, like a couple of people who have read my book have been through that situation, and I've got testimonials that they make me get a tear. Like the one lady stood out. She said my book's the first book she's ever read because she's dyslexic, and she read it from page 1 to the finish without stopping. And she said, look, I need to let you know, you don't really know me at all, but I went through that experience 22 years ago, and I haven't let it go. I just haven't been able to get over that. And your book has changed my life. Like I couldn't read this. I've never read a book because I'm dyslexic. I read your book from page 1 to the last page, and also the lessons I learned out of it's just changed my whole perspective on life. But what I probably would say, and again, I said I don't want to offend people, but I think it's a mindset thing. And for me, my mindset, I was reading books about inspiring books, lessons on life, and and going through a few challenges in life and having to deal with those challenges. I think my mindset was at a level where, hey, I could go that way, or I could go this way. And I just said through my mindset and just, this is I'm going to be a better person because of this. I'm going to take this whole glass half full approach. And when the time's right, I want to bring this story to the world. Now, I think why I say mindset is potentially a key thing there. Like a lot of people that are just going through life, they're just happy-go-lucky. They go through I've got a good job, I'm paying the bills, I'm eating, I'm putting food on the table. I go on a family holiday a year, and they're sort of like in this band of, like, let's call it a comfort zone. So when they get their challenges, like what I see as what they might see as a mountain challenge, I might see as a molehill, because I've, just been, just leaving home at 15, that's challenging. Being borderline homeless at 17, that's challenging. Firing your boss with nothing else to do, that's challenging. Starting a business when you don't know, going through a global financial crisis and being put into a financial position where you're eating basically a bakery bread roll for 60 cents for 2 years, working 18 hours a day to dig yourself out of that situation, that's challenging. Life is just built on challenges, and you're just going, it's not a matter of if they're going to happen, it's when, how big, how often, and then how you deal with it. And that's sort of the way I look at it. I look at this last 12 months as another challenge. Like, I'm used to traveling 20 weeks a year around the world. What did I do last year? I wasn't allowed to travel more than 5 kilometers from my house for the majority of the year. That made me feel like a bird in a birdcage and highly frustrated. But again, I said, okay, well, what's the upside here? I get to podcast more. I get to content create more. I get to write books. I just become, contributor to another book called Momentum Makers, and got to spend a lot of time with my kids, so the challenges are always going to be there. It's just how you deal with them and move forward. And I think it gets back to mindset. So if there was one thing, and that's what I would say.
Yeah, that's a huge factor. And I was going to ask you about mindset, so I'm glad you covered it when you did. And it certainly, to me, when I'm working with clients, mindset is always the foundational and first component that we work on, because if we can get that piece right, it's not that the rest of the foundational pieces that we work on are easy, but it certainly sets us up for success. And there was something that you said that I wanted to go back to when you mentioned that earlier on, before this transformational event in your life, that you were stoic, and even at your wedding, I recall when my wife and I, before we were married, we met with the priest who was marrying us and another religious leader, and I was similar to what you were describing, very, very stoic, didn't show my feelings very much. Although I had them, I just didn't show them. And it seemed like very little could ruffle my feathers. And this religious leader said to me, you're like a stone wall. And I remember after he said that to me, my now wife looked at me and kind of smiled. And that was something that just stuck with me. It resonated. And it's taken years, quite frankly, for me to really break down that wall a bit and lead more from my heart and show more emotion, because it wasn't easy for me. So I can only imagine what that, actually, I can't even imagine, right? But the experience that you went through when all of that emotion just finally flushed out of you. So let's dig into the book here, because the way that you have it organized, it's an amazing book filled with valuable lessons and powerful comments to really think about. And there's action steps in there, right? And you're also, you're writing a letter to your son. So walk us through, if you will. Let's take some of the key areas of the book and share some things with our audience that they can apply in their own lives.
Yeah, look, I think when I wanted to create this book, because it was so personal, it's funny, like the letters, what I do on the 24th of January every year is write a letter to Ethan as, this is life and this is what I've learned and this is, you're not forgotten. That's my, like my birthday present to him, but to the world. So I was writing these letters every year, well before wanting to write a book. But and I put them at every second chapter in the book. But as I put them into my book, I'm like reading them, going, this is sort of like been manifesting over a period of time. They sort of like all fit perfectly into the jigsaw puzzle as I'm writing it. So I wanted to like bring some real personal touch to the book because. My book is You've Got One Shot, the story of a stolen heartbeat and what that taught me about living a meaningful life. So I think if I was bringing everything together, it's not hardcore personal development, but there is a lot of context and perspective. And I bring a lot of stories into there. Like one of my favorite stories is a life-changing story for me. I think people get value if I just share this over a minute or so. But one of my chapters is how I met my mentor was through generosity and gratitude. And what happened there was, I say in the book, is how 8 basketball tickets changed my life. And as I said, I started a business when I was 21 years of age, had no idea about business or life, but I was prepared to do what it takes. What happened was a professional basketball team, so not like our equivalent to the NBA, it's the NBL, were looking for sponsors. And they come to me and I said, look, I don't have any money. What I said, what I can do is maybe I give you, 10 12-month memberships are $1,500 each, and you can raffle them off and make some money. And they said, oh, that'll be wonderful. And anyway, I didn't think anything of it. And about 6 months later, a lady comes back and she was a player's wife. And she said, that was so generous of you. Here's 8 basketball tickets. So I put them in my drawer. A young family walk into my gym and they're doing a trial. And they said at the end of the trial, we're going to join up. We've got a good feel here. And I pulled the basketball tickets out and said, oh, if you got anything on Saturday night, here's some basketball tickets. And they were grateful. They go to basketball, come back next Monday. And the father goes, Craig, that was extremely generous of you. You don't even know us or anything like that. I have a corporate box at the football. Would you like to come along this week and meet a few business people? So he was a highly successful business person. This guy is still my mentor today, but he taught me how to invest in property. He sat me down and he took me out in the field. This is what you look for if you're looking to invest. And he taught me how to invest in the real stock market. He helped me navigate through the global financial crisis. Every key business decision I've made over the last 10 years, I've always said, I spend an hour of my time with you so you can like see if there's any blind spots I'm missing in what I'm just about to embark on. And we're very good friends. I actually had a call with him last week about something else I've been working on. So I want to go out into the corporate world and do some more speaking. And I just booked him out for an hour. And the point is I was super resourceful to work out a way where I didn't have money to add value to an organization. Then I was given something that I wasn't expecting. Then I give it away without any intention, then that person has changed my life. So that's a story I tell in the book about generosity and gratitude and how important that is for helping you get ahead in life. So that each chapter is a little bit like that, where I talk about perspective, where I talk about that. I talk about leverage because that mentor there, you're not taught about leverage at school. So you got to sort of nearly stumble across it or work it out eventually. But he said, Craig, if you can learn how to leverage time, money, and develop meaningful relationships, everything will work out for you. So I that's what I did. I leveraged property. I leveraged franchising. I leveraged an online platform to make financial, I've got complete time and financial freedom by age 40, and I grew up in poverty, the cheapest houses in Australia is where I grew up. I left home at 15. So it wasn't like I was given a good school education or anything like that. But, that's sort of, some of the things people will learning to dream again. I write a chapter about that because people stop dreaming. People, when you're a kid, you live without fear. You think you can be an astronaut or Superman or whatever, but then you get an education and debt. Then you buy a house and debt. Then you get a job and you don't like it, but I can't leave it because I've got this debt. Then I buy, so it's this constant, I can't take risks because of that. So people stop dreaming. And, so I write a chapter about the importance of dreaming again. So all the chapters really are these soft self-help lessons with context through experience.
Well, they truly are very powerful lessons, and there's a lot of information in this book, and the book is, 100, almost 180 pages, let's say, but it truly is filled with very meaningful information. And I want to go back to leverage for a moment. If you were sitting in front of an entrepreneur or a small business owner right now, what would you share with them in regards to leverage? Something that you've learned, something that you could give to them that they could take and apply right now?
I think my ultimate advice around being resourceful, like I call it business alchemy, turning nothing into something, and when I say that is, what can I potentially leverage? Is it a joint venture partnership? Is it a relationship with somebody that I know that I can create something and turn nothing, because I have nothing at the moment, into something? I think that's a really, really important way to think if you're in business. How can I turn nothing, I don't have it at the moment, into something through me doing a JV, me going to Jay and saying, hey, Jay, this person here sells this thing here, and I think I could do a good business, like thinking about how you can turn nothing into something. But ultimately, I always say to people, make money on money. All right. So people that don't understand leverage that well, they might make $1 million a year, and they've made $1 million a year, but their expenses in association with their lifestyle becomes $1 million. So I protected myself through the current economic downturn through my lessons in the global financial crisis, where there's always going to be a rainy day. So for the last 12 years, even though I've been making a lot of money, I've been investing. Like, I'm a part owner of a number of private companies. I've got 11 investment properties. I've, money in the bank to prepare for the rainy day. And leveraging money to make money on money is something that a lot of people don't necessarily think. They always think it's always going to be a summer, but there's a winter always going to be around the corner. And I went through that experience where I was a high risk business builder. The first 6 years, okay, here's another gym, 5 gyms in 18 months, renovations, equipment, staff, launches. I'll go into the bank and say, hey, I want to buy that property there. Thanks. Buy the property. And, like, I was living on an edge and not managing my downside. I was lucky I was able to leverage the property to finance myself through the GFC, because the banks aren't going to lend me anymore. And I'd signed 2 contracts with gyms. But the lesson out of that was, okay, I've got to manage downside and risk now and learn how to make money on money. So I'm making money in my business now. How do I turn this money into wealth? Well, is it an investment in property? Is it, other forms of investments that can help you grow and evolve and protect yourself? So that's what I would probably say.
Yeah, beautiful advice. And, I look at what you're sharing right now, and you're creating generational wealth, right? Which is fantastic. So diversification in your portfolio, what you're working on, and this is creating legacy for not only you, creating legacy for your children and hopefully your children's children and beyond. As you look back on your life to this point, the different experiences that you've had, what words would you use to describe yourself today?
Yeah, look, for me, ironically, as I was just saying, mate, turn money onto money. But one of my meetings with my mentor, I wanted to buy a holiday house, and he said, "Craig, you're in a good financial position. You can do it. The house is going to go up in value. It's okay, but it's not the smartest investment just to have an empty house with not producing income." And I said to him at the time, I said, yeah, I'm in a position now where lifestyle is important to me. So I want to turn my money into memories, because that's like a high value for me. And traveling all around the world, I've invested my kids, by the age of 12 weeks old, had both been to 2 countries each. And my son's been to Europe before the age of 4, 3 times. So I have this sort of philosophy of turning money into memories, because I don't want to be the richest man in the cemetery. I want to have experiences. So if I was to describe my life, my philosophies and everything now, I want experiences. I like going out for dinner with friends and talking about, hey, have you been to that place in Italy? It's such a beautiful place, and it creates conversation. It's really enriching to be able to travel. So I would probably say treating the world as your oyster would be what I would probably say in relation to your question.
All right. I like that. That's fantastic. So outside of your book, what are 1 to 2 books that you would recommend that have dramatically impacted your outlook on life?
Outlook on life. I think the biggest impactful book for me was reading Ray Dalio's Work-Life Principles. And I changed the way I did business a few times, around. Um, After reading that book, I fired myself from roles in that they weren't the best use of my time, but I was leaving money on the table just because I was saying, I need to get this person in to do that I don't want to do that. I'm going to do it myself. And I just wasn't, I was just sort of like walking around with cement shoes on. I wasn't getting anywhere with it. And as soon as I bring somebody in to do roles that weren't best use of my time. So that there was really, again, around freeing up my time to be working in my lane, my best use, my passion. So I've been a lot happier after reading that book. I learned a lot on that. And I think reading, I really got Can't Hurt Me, David Goggins' book, Can't Hurt Me, inspired me in a way to write my book. I read that book probably, I don't know, a year before I started writing my book. And it was like, right, I'm going to write a book now, but it's not going to be a business book. It's going to be a book that's impactful like that.
Interesting. Well, that's quite a book, and Principles I have sitting right over here, and it really becomes a reference book for me. It's not one of those that you read one time and then it sits on a shelf collecting dust. It is full of nuggets of incredible Ray Dalio wisdom. So I'm right there with you on those recommendations. So what do you do now to challenge yourself to grow personally and professionally? What specific things are you doing to challenge yourself?
That there for me is constant evolution. Now, for the last 4 years, have been in a mastermind, 7-figure mastermind, going from, 8 figures and beyond type of mastermind. So working and spending time with really high level people to help everyone lifts each other up and opens opportunities for everyone. It's an expensive mastermind financially, but I've been in it for 4 years. Last year through the lockdown, there's a guy, he's an American guy called Gerard Adams. He's a content creator I've been following for a long time. And I've always said, because I'm in this mastermind that costs a lot, and his mastermind costs probably the equivalent. I always said, I want to do something with him. I want to get to know him well. He just really aligns with my values. So I ended up, because I had so much time on my hand, joining a second mastermind, which was his as well, and spent a lot of time working with him last year as well. He was on my podcast too, and getting to know sort of like a group of Americans similar to the Australian version that are all sort of 7-figure earners wanting to go to the next level. But I'm actually in the process now, because I can't travel for another year, where I'm just relaunching this idea of helping people become professionalized. So when I say that, like, people always talk about personal brand, and I always think, oh yeah, you've got nice pretty pictures, and you've got a really good tagline. Mm-hmm. But there's so much more to success than pretty pictures and a nice tagline, and that's what I stand for. And I look at becoming professionalized as something that I've done constantly over 20 years. Is if I want opportunities to come my way, I want to be in the top 1% of that field and see what happens. If you can get yourself up into the top 1% of that field, all the opportunities will start coming your way, even if you're in the top 10%. But when you're in the top 1%, you think, if you watch a show $1 Million Listing, New York, the 3 real estate agents, or the 4 real estate agents are up in that top 1%. They've got that opportunity now. Everything's coming their way. So they get all the real estate deals there. But now they're on Instagram posting a property on Instagram and it's selling. But if you're in just the clutter as a real estate agent, you're going out chasing business all the time. And if you put a house on Instagram, you've got nobody, because nobody's following. So the idea of being professionalized is to come up into the top 1% of your niche, whether it's personal training, whether it's, so you can be the personal trainer on The Biggest Loser. Like, I've consistently done that over my journey. Being a finalist for Australia's Fitness Professional of the Year, setting up 22 franchise. I won Franchisee of the Year 3 times. I was listed in the top 80 biggest distributors in the direct selling industry, which is a $200 billion industry. So I've continually got up into that 1%, and always opportunities have come my way. So at the moment, I'm actually picking up personal clients that want to, whatever part of the journey is, to try and help them become professionalized. And that's sort of like, it's creating again, but I'm sort of starting again, launching this as well.
Well, that is very exciting. Very exciting. So if our listeners were interested to find out more about that, also to be able to consume your content and purchase a copy of your book, where would they go?
Actually, ironically, the whole idea of being professionalized come about from me just relaunching my website, which is just my name, craigschulze.com, where I had my podcast sitting over here, and I had my course, Rapid Freedom Framework, sitting over here on Kajabi, and I had my website on WordPress, and I was sort of like on the outside to the consumer, it's like, oh, Craig's professional, but I felt completely unorganized. I'm getting like paying for Zapier to do this thing, and that's got to send stuff there. And so now I've just relaunched a bit of a one-stop shop. So I've got my podcast hosted in my website. My courses are now in my website. It's sort of like a hub. And now I'm, trying to help people become professionalized there, but then go and grow and evolve from there. So, yeah, just my name, craigschulze.com. You'll find me on all the social medias, the same: Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, all under my name.
Perfect. Well, we will certainly put the link to that in the show notes. So I have one final question for you, and it is this. What are you adding or eliminating from your life to live more fulfilled and with greater purpose?
I think in the end, it's people. So I talk about in my book about relationships and how important they are. Networks, your net worth is your network. And I'm always trying to level up my network and add quality people into my life that can enrich me through conversation and opportunity. And on the flip side, eliminating people that are just draining me and taking me down. And just, I'll have to put a exclamation mark here, because sometimes that can be your friends and family. So I'm not going to eliminate necessarily my friends and family, but be very self-aware of the conversation you could be having with them to make sure that it doesn't A, bring you down, or B, hold you back. So you might be someone that wants to go out and take action on your dream, and you might catch up with your friends and say, hey, I'm just about to launch this new coffee business and I'm really passionate about coffee, and I'm going to start a blog, and it's going to be a travel blog, and we're going to be doing this. And they might go, oh, Jay, that's a bit far-fetched like that. And you could literally, your dream could be stopped tomorrow from that conversation. They love you, you love them, but just be self-aware around that. Don't cut them off. But there are people in your life that you've just got to cut off. So I'm about building my contacts, currencies, your contacts list, developing meaningful relationships with people where I am, I'm not after anything off anyone. I'm looking to add value into people's into that relationship. And if anything comes back my way, then great. And yeah, that's the currency that I work in, is a relationship currency.
What a beautiful response. Fantastic. Well, thank you so very much for joining us on Business Minds Coffee Chat. I appreciate you sharing of your experiences, sharing from your heart, and providing so much valuable information to us today. So Craig, thank you.
I really enjoy being on here, and I am out there sharing my story to people all around the world, and I love being on shows like yours because it is enriching. That's sort of that relationship thing. So I'm out there to share the story to the world. And one day I say to people always say, hey, I'm an author and I'm a best-selling author. And I'm not, but my book will be read by somebody who will tell somebody, and that person will share it with somebody. That person one day may be Oprah Winfrey, and Oprah Winfrey might read my book and she'll say, Craig, you need to be on my show to share your story. And, then the whole world will know. So I'm not out trying to be an Amazon bestseller or anything. It'll happen if it happens, but I'll change lives. That's for sure.
There you go. Creating ripples and making an impact. Well, thank you. And for all of you, thank you so very much for watching and listening. And please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and give us a review. We would love to hear one or two key takeaways from this episode. To enjoy more episodes and to learn how Jay Shear Business Consulting can help build a solid foundation for your service-based business, just visit jayshearbusinessconsulting.com. Until next time, keep learning and growing. Please pick up a copy of You've Got One Shot. We'll link to that in the show notes. And we'll see you on the next Business Minds Coffee Chat. Take care.
Jay Shear.
Jay Shear.
Business Consultant. Jay Shear Business Consulting.